Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Second Take. Thank you for joining us. You know me, Armand Sadler. You know her, Jillian Kushner. We're really excited that you guys joined us once again, and let's get right into it.
All right, guys, we want to start it off talking about the NFL Combine. We got the results in. Everybody's favorite event is the 40. So let's talk about those top 5 40 times because these boys were flying. The fastest person in the 40-yard dash this year was Dree Archer from Kent State. He ran a 4.26, which is pretty fast. The second person behind him ran a 4.33, and that was Brandon Cooks from Oregon State. We have guys coming out of really nowhere, just fast, like fast. The next one after that was John Brown from Pittsburgh State, another small college, not really on the map. He ran a 4.34. The only big name in the top 5 fast 40 times was Justin Gilbert from Oklahoma State. He ran a 4.37, and then behind him was Philip Gaines from Rice with a 4.38. So I mean, all those times are freakishly fast. And if we're starting to look at, let's talk about those big names in the draft. You know, everybody wants to know how Jadeveon Clowney did. He ran a 4.53 in the 40. He only had 21 reps for the bench press, but he did have a 37.5 vertical. So he did pretty well. And then Armand's favorite, Mr. Manziel, he ran a 4.68, and he had a 31.5-inch vertical. And then the weird thing that happened was that Teddy Bridgewater out of Louisville didn't run the 40. I mean, some people can opt to do that. He did have a 30-inch vertical, though, so he did participate in some of the events. A.J. McCarron out of Alabama had a very slow 40 with a 4.94. I mean, he did go under 5 seconds, but still, and he only had a 28-inch vertical. He's not projected to be a very high draft pick, even though he's won all these national championships. And then everybody's new favorite guy, Michael Sam, ran a 4.91, which was pretty disappointing. He only had 17 reps on the bench press, and he only had a 25.5-inch vertical. Most people saying he's pretty disappointing in the combine. Could hurt his draft stock. We don't really know what happened. Again, he was an SEC Defensive Player of the Year. So, Armand, tell me what you think about these times.
Well, I mean, one thing I want to touch on about the NFL Combine, you mentioned all those guys from no-name schools, small schools that aren't really talked about. That's one thing I really like about the NFL Combine. You get to see people that you don't hear about on a daily basis on ESPN as the top players in the country. They show how fast they are. They show how high they can jump, how strong they are. They really get to show themselves in a way that they couldn't do it during the season. So that's one thing I really like about the NFL Combine. Jadeveon Clowney ran a great 40. He's faster than every quarterback in the league except for Colin Kaepernick and RG3, I believe, which is incredible. I mean, he's such a threat when he gets the NFL. Johnny Manziel, he did all right. I mean, a 4.6 is a solid time. Quarterbacks aren't expected to run really fast times. For his speed, that's solid. I'm impressed with it. I like it. And I think that Johnny Manziel is going to be a top pick, as I've said before. So that's really what I'm thinking about the Combine. Impressed. Love it. It's always exciting. Definitely proud of all those guys from small schools who got to show themselves.
Well, after the Combine, they have changed the mock draft. The official mock draft from NFL.com has Jadeveon Clowney going number 1. Greg Robinson from the offensive tackle from Auburn at number 2. He had a 4.92 40, but he did have 32 reps in the bench press. Number 3 is Khalil Mack out of Buffalo, the outside linebacker. He ran a 4.65, which for an outside linebacker, pretty good. He only had 23 reps, though, but he does have a 40-inch vertical.
Wow.
Which is probably why he's the number 3 pick.
Yeah.
Sammy Watkins was at number 4, the receiver out of Clemson. He ran a 4.43, which is very fast, and a 34-inch vertical, which is awesome. Mr. Manziel at number 5. We can move past that. Jake Matthews from out of A&M at number 6. Blake Bortles from UCF, the quarterback, at number 7. Teddy Bridgewater at number 8, Mike Evans out of A&M at number 9, and Justin Gilbert, who I talked about earlier, at number 10. Okay. And the interesting thing about this to me is that there are 3 players out of A&M in the top 10. I don't like that, but somehow that's what happened. Mike Evans, we all know, is a great receiver, so he's a big guy. Manziel in top 10. I see it happening, but, he was supposed to be a top 3 pick, so he got pushed back after the Combine. It hurt him.
Yeah. Well, again, it's a mock draft, so it's not what's going to happen. It's what's projected to happen. There's a very good chance that all these picks that they said will go to different places will. I still believe Johnny Manziel is going to be a top 3 pick. I think that offensive tackle Jake Matthews out of Texas A&M will also be a top pick. So, but that's really how I'm feeling. Again, you don't know. Anything can happen on draft day. Trades will be, picks will be traded away. You don't know. So, we'll see. But I'm definitely impressed with everyone at the combine.
I'm happy Jadeveon Clowney is the new #1 pick because I was saying that. I am surprised, however, about Teddy Bridgewater going farther back. The fact he didn't run the 40, they say that's not going to hurt him. Like, they don't hold what you don't do against you, but it does. We all know that's going to hurt him. Again, I don't know why he chose not to run the 40. But, Teddy Bridgewater is a great quarterback. So, again, he's top 10. I can't be complaining. I doubt he's complaining. But he's already been invited to the draft in New York. All those guys were already officially invited. But, that's enough about some NFL draft talk. I want to talk about the NBA because the Nets signed Jason Collins. He came out to the media last year that he was gay. However, he was not still playing in the NBA at the time. Michael Sam, if he was to get drafted, would have been the first openly gay player in all of the 4 main professional sports. But now the NBA just beat them to it. Maybe I'm looking at this different, but I kind of see that the NBA might have pushed somebody to pick up Jason Collins just as like, they wanted to get ahead of the NFL, make the history before the NFL. I could be just seeing that wrong, but when I first heard it, I was thinking there's something going on there, but that's just my opinion.
If it is a power move by the Nets, then it's really smart because they were projected to do so well this season, and they're just not looking very hot. So if they wanted some publicity picking up Jason Collins, they definitely got it. Jason Kidd, the new head coach, just retired last year, and now they have the first openly gay active NBA player. Like the Nets are making a lot of headlines, and it's for more than just their bad basketball they've been playing. So.
All right, we don't want to dwell on that too much, but an interesting rule by the NFL is they put on the table is to ban the N-word on the field. As this may have come from the little Richard Sherman, Michael Crabtree incident in the Super Bowl, we're not sure. We all know this is an issue. It just comes out. Ryan Clark of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who has had a say on just about everything this year, claims it would be really tough to legislate this, and that is completely true. Maybe it's heat of the moment, and it's not proposed for the NBA, but Chris Bosh of the Heat said that he supports penalizing players for using this and any other racial slurs. So I think everybody kind of stands behind it, but as far as, just like Ryan Clark said, implementing this, going to be a little difficult.
Absolutely. There's no way to control what the players say on the field. There's no way to control what comes out of their mouth because they're their own person, so they say what they want. But historically, the N-word is not a good word. Now, recently, it's picked up a positive connotation as calling someone a friend or a brother, but overall, it's not something positive. So I agree. It doesn't belong on the football field. There's no necessity for it. It doesn't belong in the NBA either. It shouldn't be used in the MLB and professional soccer. It shouldn't be used in any professional sport. So I support this. It'll definitely be hard to legislate, as Mr. Ryan Clark said, who has weighed in on everything. I respect that, though. He's finding publicity.
I think we need to have him on Second Take. I think he has a lot to say about everything.
I think that he would be a perfect guest on Second Take, and if we can work that out, I would totally be up for it. So,
viewers, if any of y'all know Ryan Clark off the Pittsburgh Steelers, you put him in touch. We might be interested.
Please text him my number because I definitely would like to have a conversation with him.
All right, and I know you're a big MLB fan, so I want you to kind of explain this new home plate rule that they just implemented.
All right, so the MLB has taken some strides towards banning home plate collisions, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about this. I feel as though they're taking the NFL stance as the NFL is trying to protect players, which it's important to protect your players. But at the same time, big hits in the NFL are exciting, and home plate collisions in the MLB are exciting. So basically what they stated is that catchers can only block the plate if they already have the ball, which is fine because as a catcher, you shouldn't be blocking a runner from scoring if you don't have the ball to tag them out. You're getting in the way. That's an interference. That's not fair. The second part of the rule, it's subjective. It says a runner can't deviate from their path to initiate contact. But how do you know what the runner's intention is? You don't know if he's trying to initiate contact. You don't know if he's trying to score. You don't know if he's trying to maneuver around the catcher to get to the plate. A lot of runners don't intend to run into the catcher, but if the catcher gets in the way, what are they going to do? They're not going to stand there and wait for them to move. They're going to try to run through them. So I get it. I don't support it. I really like home plate collisions. I think they make baseball what they are because it's a non-contact sport, and I like contact sports. So any kind of contact will make me happy. I mean, it's they're going to try to implement it, so there's really nothing I can do. I can only share my opinion, but I don't support it.
Yeah, I agree with what you say. I mean, everyone is cracking down on player safety, and we get it. It's important. You do want to protect these players, but they also know what comes along with playing the game. You know, there are injuries. You know, you do have to worry about certain stuff like that, collisions. And the thing about this is the second part of the rule is where it's going to be difficult about you. If a player starts to deviate from the regular path, who are you to decide that for him? You know, that's going to be up to a lot of interpretation, and that's kind of the thing that's worrisome about it is, you know, really anyone could just say, oh, he was trying to deviate from the path, but really, you know, he wasn't. So that's giving the umpires a lot of power in the situation. I mean, that's really all I have to say on the matter. But I do want to move on to another rule that's about player safety is the NCAA has a new rule on the table, and only 25 of the 128 FBS coaches support this, so it's not very popular. What it's going to do is it's going to allow for defenses to substitute players in the first 10 seconds of the play clock. This would prohibit anybody from having hurry-up offenses because, you know, the hurry-up offense, you know, no huddle, get in there, snap the ball. That's definitely not – that's quicker than 10 seconds into the play clock. So this rule would basically eliminate the hurry-up offense. And they call this the Nick Saban rule. You know, it's making defenses have a leg up on offenses like Alabama, so like Nick Saban. Personally, I think this is a ridiculous rule. It's when you look back on the 2013 season, all you see is hurry-up offense, especially in college. I mean, that is a huge tactic. It's successful for so many people. So to get rid of that would be really hurting the sport. You know, they say that you need to substitute players because these guys are getting tired. Well, I mean, it's, again, a player safety thing that's just taken to an extreme. I hope it doesn't pass, but you never know.
Yeah, I really like hurry-up offense. I think that it's a really important part of football. You catch your opponent off guard. It gives you an advantage because there are a lot of ways that you can't get a leg up on your opponent. So hurry-up offense, you can get in a rhythm, get a quick pass, hurry to the line, get started, snap the ball, run a quick play again. It's a really good part of football. I like it. I understand player safety. I understand that perhaps it gives an unfair advantage, but I don't really support it. I think hurry-up offense is a great thing. I don't think that they should get rid of it. I don't really like this new rule. Again, I don't have any authority. I wish I did. There were a lot of things that I would change, but that's just my opinion. Overall, I'm not really too impressed with this rule.
Yeah, luckily it's still just on the table. It hasn't been passed. Another rule on the table, though, is one that's really, I think, well-received. I think everyone's going to love it, is last year they implemented the new targeting rule. And targeting is if it was a helmet-to-helmet, you did it on purpose, they feel, that's why they were targeted, you get a 15-yard penalty and you get ejected. The referees can review the ejection, but they don't take back the yardage penalty. So now they have the new revision to this rule that they can review the yardage penalty as well, which I think is great because I know Texas has been called targeting and the player doesn't get ejected, but we still got that 15-yard penalty, and that doesn't make sense. I know that frustrated a lot of fans because why would you still penalize if you just said it wasn't a penalty? So that one's on the table. I think the only reason they kept the yardage penalty is it was still a hard hit that they would normally flag. So again, just like with the MLB rule, targeting was very up for interpretation. One guy may say it was, the other may say it wasn't. So I guess they're trying to lessen the power of the referees on that one, which I would be in favor of.
Yeah, I think all the subjectiveness of all these rules we've discussed with you all, that it's going to cause a lot of issues with players and referees, and I can see a lot of players getting ejected, showing anger towards the referees for perhaps making a bad call. Targeting is bad. Helmet-to-helmet contact is not fun. I've taken a lot of it in my high school football career. It's not something you want to do, so I think it should be penalized, but at the same time, it's really hard to determine a player's intentions. So I don't see much good coming out of this rule besides the fact that players will be protected.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to discuss was last week I told you all about the Oklahoma players getting reported to the NCAA for eating too much pasta. This is another bizarre NCAA thing. Ohio State self-reported themselves to the NCAA because Urban Meyer let a recruit talk to Tim Tebow on the phone for 8 seconds. So they reported to themselves to the NCAA. And when I saw this, I'm thinking the NCAA has scared every single team and every single player and every single coach into abiding by their rules like crazy. They know the NCAA is coming out hot. Like, they are willing to penalize anybody and everybody. So it's clear, like, even Urban Meyer is terrified because a phone call for 8 seconds, is that really even breaking a rule? How much can you say in 8 seconds? I bet Tim Tebow was just starting his little spiel, but I won't get into that because I know you're a Tebow fan.
I like Tebow a lot, but at the same time, you have to follow the rules. Recruits should not be being coerced by players and talking on the phone with people. It's the rules that the NCAA makes. So I think it's good that they self-reported themselves because it's better for you to tell on yourself than for someone else to tell on you, as evident in the Joe Paterno case. So, and I think that's the reason that a lot of these teams and players are self-reporting themselves and getting themselves in trouble rather than someone getting them in trouble. So I mean, it's good that they did that. I think that everyone's going to follow and abide by the NCAA's rules from this point going forward because, I mean, it's what you're supposed to do. They're the supreme authority, so it's good.
Everyone seems to be pretty scared of them. So now we're going from a team abiding the law to someone not doing so much. So Richie Incognito. Do we go a week without hearing his name? Nope. Richie Incognito vandalized his own car the other day. He claims he was venting by attacking his Ferrari with a baseball bat. I personally would not do that if I had a Ferrari, but he chose to do so. And then also today he checked himself into a psychiatric unit in Arizona, which I think we can all agree was probably for the best. We hope Incognito can get on his feet again. There's obviously some issues going on that he needs worked out because who would vandalize a Ferrari?
Yeah, I definitely don't support him doing that. That's a very expensive car. It's a nice car. I think a Ferrari should be treated with the utmost care, but it's just more negative Miami Dolphins drama that they don't need. Now they have a player with mental issues who's beating up cars. They have another player with emotional issues who doesn't want to play for them anymore. They have a coach who's a bully. It's just a lot on top of the fact that they're not a good football team. And they really don't need this right now. I think the best decision Richie Incognito made was check himself into a psychiatric ward because he clearly needs some help. So I think that a positive has come out of this, but still just more negativity for the Dolphins.
Yeah. And last week we didn't have time to talk about that Duke-UNC game. For those of you who didn't watch, Duke is a very highly ranked team this year. As always, UNC is not having their best year. Just like last year, they've kind of been on the decline. They did upset Duke at Duke. It was a great game, amazing game. And then following that loss, Duke went on to play Syracuse. And, this was a very controversial game to say the least. This game was also at Duke. And, we all heard about the Jim Boeheim outburst, so we're going to talk to you all about it. Because, as we know, Mr. Armand Sadler loves to hate on Cuse lately, and honestly, if you did not see the play, towards the end of the game, a player, I forget who it was going up, and they called him for a charge, I believe, and Jim Boeheim lost his mind.
Yes, Jim Boeheim did do that. As much as I do like to hate on Syracuse, as Jillian pointed out, I do think it was a really bad call. I think that Jim Boeheim was completely justified in showing that anger because it was an awful call. The referees did not do their job in that situation. So I probably would have had the same exact reaction as Jim Boeheim. However, I am pleased to see that Duke got their stuff together after the loss to UNC, and they defeated Syracuse, who beat them earlier this season, just a couple weeks ago, actually. Tyler Ennis was nowhere to be found in that game. CJ Fair had a modest game, but 4 turnovers. It just wasn't really a good game for Syracuse. At least this loss wasn't to an unranked, under 500 team, but still, I'm glad that Florida now has a top spot. Wichita State is number 2. Really happy about that. Cuse did turn things around with a win against University of Maryland. Again, they're expected to beat a team like that, so I'm not all that impressed. That's what they're supposed to do, so good. You did what you're supposed to do. Now do other things, exceed the expectations that are had for you. Overall, Duke-UNC game, always a good game. No matter how those two teams are doing, they always play each other really well. UNC upsetting Duke, not that shocked by it, just even with the bad season they're having, because they just play each other so well. It's so much competition and emotion in that game every season. So I was definitely pleased with that. Pleased with college basketball overall.
That's how rivalries work, because whenever Texas plays OU in football, it doesn't matter who is having the better season, what happened in the past, because we go in there and it's a whole new playing field. It's like it just started. It's the same thing for Duke UNC. As far as the Syracuse game, Jim Boeheim did get ejected after he erupted. He apologized for how he reacted. I would have done the same thing. It's heat of the moment. It definitely should have been a defensive foul. That was a terrible call by the refs. And just like I was saying earlier in college football, I don't like giving this much power to the refs. In a way, you could argue it won the game for Duke. I kind of see it as so, because it changed the momentum. That's just my opinion on it. And if we're talking about basketball, we got to talk about the Big 12, best new conference in college basketball. Sadly, I must admit that last week Texas did not have a good week. We lost at Iowa State, and then we got destroyed at Kansas. We had a 30-point loss. I mean, they were putting the bench warmers in. Oh, it was terrible. It was terrible. We did bounce back. We beat West Virginia, and then we play Oklahoma tomorrow. Tune into that. Season's almost over. I must say it's almost the end of February. Today's the last day. That means March is starting. March Madness is starting. We're going to have a lot to talk about, because we all love March Madness. And we might do a little bracket talk, Who knows? Because, there's like 1 in a billion chance you get the right bracket. But what if it's one of us? What would y'all do then?
I'm thinking that Second Take gets the perfect bracket this year.
I agree. I'll put money on it.
I'm calling it. I think that we're going to get it.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to some NBA. Sadly, Oklahoma City lost to the Clippers last week, and the interesting fact about this was Kevin Durant had over 40 points. The last player to get over 40 points and 10 assists in a loss was LeBron James while he was in Cleveland. The way I see this is that Oklahoma City is Kevin Durant's Cleveland, and he will not be able to get a ring on that team. He's going to have to go to his version of Miami, just as LeBron did. This has put like a weird parallel with these two players. These two players are running hot in the MVP race. They are neck to neck, and I'm seeing like a clear issue here. If that, it's not a coincidence that stat is the way it is. We all know LeBron could have not won a ring on Cleveland. He was really carrying the team on his back. We've discussed here on Second Take how Durant is doing the same. He's got to move somewhere. And I'm telling Houston Rockets, pick up Kevin Durant, put him with James Harden, put him with Dwight Howard. You've got a money team there that's a championship team. That's what I'm saying.
Well, yes, these 3 straight losses that OKC has suffered, they hurt. And yes, there are some parallels between Kevin Durant and LeBron James' careers. But I would just like to point out that the Cleveland Cavaliers were nothing without LeBron James. They honestly should have been called the Cleveland LeBrons. Because let's look at it.
What about OKC? What's OKC without Kevin Durant?
OKC still has a superstar in Russell Westbrook. So
we were just talking about how Russell Westbrook doesn't do. If they just had Russell Westbrook, they would be nothing.
I don't agree with that. I think OKC would be fine with just Russell Westbrook.
No, I love Russ. He's a great player. He is. I'm first to admit that. But he is not a leader in the same sense that Kevin Durant can be. OKC is nothing without Kevin Durant. They would not be able to survive without that. They would be they'd be like the Knicks, they'd be like the Nets if they did not have Kevin Durant. They would not be a top team.
I wouldn't go that far saying they'd be like the Knicks or the Nets because those two teams are just let's not even put them in the same conversation as OKC. But Russell Westbrook is the type of player where he plays like he's a star of the team, and he still hasn't matured enough to realize that he needs to take a step back and let Kevin Durant take over. But I think that Russell Westbrook could easily lead a team. And that's my whole point here is that he's a superstar, and OKC is more than just Kevin Durant. I don't think Kevin Durant needs to leave. The point about LeBron James and the Cavaliers, his best supporting piece, he had Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Carlos Boozer when he wasn't the player he is today. They had Shaq out of his prime, Eric Snow out of his prime. The Cavaliers were nothing without LeBron James. LeBron James had to put up 40 and 50 points a game for the Cavaliers to be successful. Kevin Durant doesn't need to do that. He chooses to, and it definitely helps.
No, Kevin Durant needs to do that. I mean, if we were to put Kevin Durant out of a game, OKC's going to lose. I mean, they're losing regardless. So, I mean, clearly something's wrong because just as we talked about last week, Westbrook, when he's in the game, Kevin Durant doesn't score as much. Kevin Durant needs a team where he is that leader. And while he is the leader I completely agree with you that Westbrook needs to step back and be like, Kevin, you're the leader. I'm going to step back. He does need to do that. But also, if you look at the Heat, LeBron was out for a broken nose. We're not going to talk about it. But the Heat still won. And I don't think that OKC could do that same thing if Kevin Durant was out.
I think they would, actually. See, the thing about the Thunder's offense is that they choose to let Kevin Durant take those shots. But if Kevin Durant were to be taken out of the game, Cephalosha would shoot more, Ibaka would shoot more, Russell would definitely shoot more, Jeremy Lamb would shoot more. A lot of people would get more shots. But the whole point of their offense, they choose to let Kevin Durant take over because, yes, he gives them the best chance of winning. They don't need to do that. It's just something that they do. And I feel that if Kevin Durant were to not play a game, I think OKC could still compete with any team. As long as everyone comes together, all those supporting pieces come together and take more shots.
I may be making a very bold statement right now, but y'all heard it here first. Kevin Durant will not win a ring on OKC. And it doesn't matter if it's this year, next year, 10 years from now, if he's still around 10 years from now. He needs to be on a team like the Rockets. That may be because I'm a big Dwight Howard fan and therefore I'm a Rockets fan, but I see that as a perfect place for him. The Rockets are on fire this year. They got James Harden, Jeremy Lin, Dwight Howard. Those are just big names. We got everybody over there. And I think that kind of team would love a Kevin Durant. It would just be right. And James Harden and Kevin Durant have that connection already. And I know Dwight and Kevin Durant like each other. Kevin can't do everything to win a championship because you got a lot of games to play. It's not just one and done. There's a series. You got to get through a series. And that's a lot for someone if he's going out and scoring 40 points each game. He's going to be exhausted going through a series. He needs a team that's going to, James Harden is going to drop some threes for him. Take the load off of Kevin Durant. He's still a leader, but at least he's calmed down, He needs a big man like Dwight to block him. I see a perfect fit on the Rockets for Kevin Durant, and I just hope they make that move so I can be right.
Joe, you do make a really interesting point, and if I wasn't such an OKC fan, I would agree with you because that's what the NBA has become. It's become an arms race. You load your team up with really good players, and that's how you become successful. I don't like LeBron. I've said it. I respect LeBron, and he made the best decision that he could by going to the Miami Heat with Chris Bosh there and Dwayne Wade there and all those other pieces that they brought together. That's a championship team. That's what the NBA has become. It's not just one star and a few supporting pieces. It's become multiple stars and a good supporting cast. So Kevin Durant going to the Rockets would be a great move. I guarantee that if he was on the Rockets next year, they would win the championship. Miami couldn't guard all those players, but as an OKC fan, I understand I'm biased, but I do believe that Kevin Durant could win a ring with OKC. They just signed Caron Butler. That's another good bench piece. I'm going to keep saying this. They need to play Jeremy Lamb more. Russell Westbrook needs to step back. Reggie Jackson needs to get his stuff together. OKC is a championship contender, and I think they could win a championship with that team.
I mean, I don't see it happening. I support OKC because Kevin Durant, we both Longhorns. We support each other. He doesn't know he supports me, but he'll find out eventually. But I see Houston is just right because you got all these players on Houston that are hungry for a championship ring. James Harden doesn't got one. You know, Dwight Howard doesn't have one. Jeremy Lin doesn't have one. They want one. And no one is hungrier right now than Kevin Durant. And that's proven. We know he is, you know. I do not think, this may be bold, I do not think that LeBron James is as hungry as Kevin Durant is. I think LeBron James thinks it's just going to fall in his lap. He plays hungry, yes, but I don't think he is hungry to the same extent. You know, I think that Kevin Durant feels he has more to prove, which he does. When you don't have a ring, you're not in the same conversation as these greats. Because just as LeBron felt that way before his first ring, you know, now he thinks like he's talking all confident, you know. I don't like that. And someone needs to take him off of his high horse. Yes, he's a great player. I'm not trying to knock him for that. But someone does need to come in and take that, and that is why I need Kevin Durant on the Rockets, so someone is going to take him down like that.
And I also do agree with your point about how Kevin Durant is hungry right now. LeBron felt those pressures before he got his ring. He was hungry. He played with a chip on his shoulder. Now he has 2 rings. He doesn't really have to be hungry anymore. I mean, he has an amazing team in Miami. They could win. They have the potential to win a championship for the next 6 seasons if they wanted to. So he doesn't have to be as hungry. It's players like Kevin Durant or Carmelo Anthony or Chris Paul with no rings that have to play hungrier. So I get that. But I think that Kevin Durant can get it done on OKC. Excuse me. So that's really what I'm thinking. Again, great move to the Rockets. It would absolutely be a great move. But I think that Kevin Durant is going to bring the NBA back to where it's a star staying where he started and building a team around himself and getting it done. I think that Kevin Durant can
What you're describing is LeBron James circa 2009. You know, it cannot – I mean, I have the utmost respect for Kevin Durant. You know, if anyone could do it, he could – but it can't be done. Like, you know, sometimes you just got to take the loss where it is. And everybody knows you need to have, like, a dynasty-type team. That is why every single year, year in and year out, it's the same top teams in the NBA. That's how it's been constructed, you know. This year, the Rockets are really pulling up for it. They could be the best contender for the Miami Heat this year. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, like, he needs that all-star caliber team because that is what LeBron has and that's what he's going to need to be able to compete. Kobe's had it, you know. It's just, I mean, he is their franchise player, but I mean LeBron was Cleveland's franchise player, and right now LeBron has become the Heat's franchise player. That can change. I think LeBron will end his career on Cleveland. He will not get a ring there, but he wants to like mend those ties with Cleveland. That is his home. He does want to mend those ties, but I mean, Kevin, this is coming from my heart to yours. The best move you can do right now is call up those Rockets and ask for a job because that would be the money team right there, and y'all wouldn't be able to be stopped.
And we can go back and forth on this. I'm going to have my opinion. You're going to have yours. I do see yours. I do think it will be great. I see mine. I think that it's going to happen. I think that Kevin Durant will win a ring, but he also becomes a free agent in the summer of 2016, so that's something to keep in mind. Will he go before then? Hopefully not, but everyone's talking about it. Kevin Durant has said that he's not even thinking about that right now. Right now his main goal is to get a ring. I like that. Keep your eyes on the prize. You can think about other teams when that time comes. So,
But you know Kevin Durant's watching Second Take right now, so he's obviously hearing what I'm saying.
He's also hearing what I'm saying. So, KD, stay in OKC.
All right. Speaking of franchise players, the Saints are to put a franchise tag on Jimmy Graham, which is a great thing. As most of us know, Jimmy Graham, great player for the Saints, big guy. The issue was whether they would put a franchise tag on him as a receiver or as a tight end. He is technically a tight end because of his build, but they use him as a receiver in the slot way more than any other tight end. I remember seeing some stats. It's like he's barely even a tight end, if you could even call him that. So, you know, that's a great move. He was going to be a free agent this year, so I think, you know, this puts the Saints back in the race because, you know, Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham, they have that connection, you know. A pass from Brees to Graham, it's a touchdown, you know. Great move by the Saints. Great move. It needed to be done.
100%. Jimmy Graham is possibly the best tight end in the NFL right now, in my opinion. When I was a tight end, I tried to play like him. Wasn't as successful, but Jimmy Graham's a freak. He's a freak. He played basketball. He's 6'7", so athletic, so big. He can do it all as a receiver and a tight end. Great move. Drew Brees is 35, so They have a few years left in him. It's a great move to franchise tag Jimmy Graham, keep him around when they bring in a new quarterback eventually. Completely support it. Saints, you did the smart thing.
So that's the good side of the NFL, but then there's some bad. Mr. Darren Sharper was arrested on 2 counts of rape. There's not much to say on that one. Again, do better.
Yeah, and I mean, with Darren Sharper in the NFL getting arrested, we got Raymond Felton in the NBA getting arrested. I mean, the Knicks really don't need that. They're not doing well as it is. Raymond Felton, yeah, he's had his best seasons when he's played for the Knicks, and I think he's a good point guard, but getting arrested when you guys are already having such a bad season, you don't need it. So, I mean, hopefully the Knicks can just get it together. They're projected to be one of the great teams in the NBA every season. Every season they disappoint. In my opinion, they're the biggest disappointment in the NBA. So I don't think that this was good publicity for them. It's never good publicity to get arrested, but especially for the New York Knicks because no.
And not only did Felton get arrested, but once he was released, he played in the next game. Again, that's kind of questionable. Personally, if I had someone who was just arrested, I would probably have them sitting on that bench for a little while. Speaking of the Knicks, all of us are saying it. Carmelo, you got to get out of there. You got to get out of there, Carmelo. Because just like Kevin Durant, you can't do it all. You're going to need a team that's a championship. Again, I'm promoting the Rockets. They're still open. I think they'd like you. So, Carmelo, give it a shot.
I was completely shocked that Melo stayed on the Knicks after the trade deadline. I mean, he came to the Knicks. He did great things. He made the Garden exciting again alongside J.R. Smith and all the other pieces that the Knicks have, but that's not a championship team. They're projected to be a championship team every season, and they just don't have it. So I definitely think Carmelo should have left. When he does become a free agent, I believe it's this summer or next summer, he definitely needs to part ways with the Knicks.
Yeah, because someone like Carmelo, such a great legacy, he needs to have a ring. We actually did get a request for each of us to say our Mount Rushmore. That's been a very popular thing among NBA players to discuss that. Sadly, Mount Rushmore is 5 faces. So, Armand, I'm going to let you start this. Who are you putting on your NBA Mount Rushmore?
My NBA Mount Rushmore is pretty simple. We got the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan. We have the sharpshooter from the Celtics, Larry Bird. We have Bill Russell, those 11 championships. We have Magic Johnson, and we have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
The thing that's so hard about this is you have to leave out such great people, and I'm probably going to get very ostracized for what I'm about to say. But I got Michael Jordan. I got Bill Russell. I got Dr. J. You can't forget Mr. Julius Erving. I got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And y'all are going to hate me for this, but I got Kobe Bryant.
Oh, my goodness. She is crazy.
I got Kobe Bryant. I mean, again, you have to leave out some greats because, you know, I need Mount Rushmore to expand a little bit. Give me 10. Give me 10. I feel like 10 we can cover everybody. We were trying to go through the whole entire history of the NBA and give 5 players. You know, you had to leave out Julius Erving, and you can't do that to Dr. J. I mean, he just dunks like the other day, and he's in his 70s. So, I mean, there is something amazing about that guy. All these players are so incredible. You don't want to leave anybody out. I had to leave out Larry Bird, and I'm sorry. You know, it's a little difficult, but we got that request. So y'all got it. You know our Mount Rushmores.
Yeah, let's take a few questions before we wrap up. We have 2 questions from Jake Rosen, our good friend, a sophomore at Syracuse University. We have 1 statement, CJ Fair in all caps. I mean, he didn't play that well against Duke, but okay, sure, we'll go with that. Jake also asked, Jason Collins only has a 10-day contract. Do you think they need to give him an extension? I don't see why not. I mean, I don't get what the point of signing a player for 10 days is, maybe to see how they do with the team. I mean, well, why not give him an extension? I support it. Give him an extension.
That's why I'm thinking. That's why I think that the NBA was trying to beat the NFL to the crossing the borderlines because they only gave him a 10-day contract. Does this really make history if he's only there for 10 days? Again, it's the Nets. They could use all the help they can get, so why not keep Jason Collins? There's a few other players who are signed 10-day contracts. I don't get that either. It's a very short amount of time, but I mean, I'm not an NBA team owner, so I can't answer that question. But
Right. Yeah. I mean, Jason Collins might be the key to the Nets' success. He might be the prayer that is answered because they need help
We
from the
never
gods.
know.
They really need help from the gods. So, Jason Collins, maybe. Yeah. You give him an extension. See what happens. All right. I want to thank you guys for tuning in again. Really appreciate your support. We'll be back next week. Might have a guest for you. I'm not going to reveal that. You'll see when you watch. Incentive to watch next week. Thank you guys for tuning in. Jill, if you have anything to say.
Yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully, we'll have some better things to say about the NFL next week. Again, we're going into March. We're going into March Madness. So if you love basketball, you come to us because we're going to tell you everything you need to know.